The clash between House Speaker Mike Johnson and Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett wasn't just a fleeting viral moment, it was a perfect storm of political tension, personality clashes, and live TV unpredictability. To truly understand why this exchange hit so hard, you have to look at the context building up to it. For weeks, political analysts had noted rising tensions between Johnson and Crockett. Johnson, known for his staunch conservative stances and combative style, had been under increasing pressure from both his own party and the media over recent legislative setbacks. Crockett, on the other hand, had been gaining momentum as a bold and outspoken advocate for progressive policies, often unafraid to challenge Republican leaders head-on. Their paths had crossed in committee hearings before, where sharp words were exchanged, but nothing had ever boiled over quite like this. The interview in question took place on one of the country's most watched political talk shows, a setting where millions tune in for real-time debate. Johnson was initially invited to discuss budget negotiations and national policy priorities. But the host, sensing an opportunity for a high-profile exchange, brought Crockett into the segment as a counter-voice. The setup was deliberate. Two political heavyweights, live, with no scripts and no safety net. At first, the conversation was tense but controlled. Johnson criticized the Democratic approach to spending, arguing it was reckless and harmful to the economy. Crockett responded with statistics showing economic gains in areas benefiting from progressive legislation. But then, Johnson's tone shifted. He began using more personal language, implying Crockett was more interested in political theater than real governance. He accused her of grandstanding for social media, and claimed her policy proposals were fantasy-driven and dangerous for the nation. The air in the studio changed. Viewers at home could feel the shift, the moment where a policy debate turns personal. Crockett, rather than reacting emotionally, stayed composed. She let Johnson finish entirely before speaking. Then, in a calm but piercing voice, she began methodically taking apart his arguments. She referenced bipartisan reports that contradicted Johnson's claims, highlighted inconsistencies in his own voting record, and even cited statements Johnson had made in previous interviews that undermined his current stance. Her delivery was surgical. No raised voice, no visible anger, just pure, fact-driven dismantling of every accusation. And then came the moment that would define the exchange. She leaned slightly forward, looked Johnson dead in the eye, and said, "You keep calling my work political theater, but I've read your record, Mr. Speaker. If what I'm doing is theater, then what you've been doing for years is the same show, only with far worse reviews. My voice speaks for the people you've consistently ignored. And if that makes you uncomfortable, maybe you're in the wrong job." The studio erupted. You could hear a mix of gasps and murmurs. The host, clearly caught off guard, attempted to move to the next question, but the energy in the room had shifted entirely in Crockett's favor. Johnson, visibly uncomfortable, offered a half-smile and a dismissive shake of the head, but his usual confidence seemed rattled. Within minutes of the broadcast ending, social media went into overdrive. The clip was reposted on Twitter with captions like, "Crockett just ended Johnson's career in 60 seconds, and, this is how you handle a bully." TikTok creators spliced the moment with reaction shots, dramatic sound effects, and even slow-motion edits of Crockett's final line. Instagram reels were flooded with political commentary accounts praising her masterclass in debate. Major news outlets quickly picked up the story. CNN ran a segment titled, "Crockett vs. Johnson, the exchange everyone's talking about." MSNBC invited Crockett for a follow-up interview, where she doubled down on her stance and emphasized the importance of speaking truth to power. Even late-night comedy shows joined in, replaying the clip with humorous captions and exaggerated sound effects. Johnson's office scrambled to control the damage. His communications team released a statement claiming the conversation had been taken out of context, and that Johnson stands by his commitment to calling out harmful policies. But the problem was, the full clip was everywhere, unedited, raw, and clear for all to see. In the court of public opinion, it was obvious who had won. Political strategists began speculating about the long-term impact. Some suggested this could hurt Johnson's credibility ahead of upcoming elections, especially among independent voters who value composure and factual debate over personal attacks. Others argued it might actually rally his hardcore base. But the overwhelming narrative in mainstream media was that Jasmine Crockett had scored a decisive, possibly career-altering victory in the exchange. For Crockett, the aftermath was nothing short of a political windfall. Her social media following surged by hundreds of thousands in days. Donations to her campaign spiked dramatically. Grassroots organizations began reaching out, offering support and partnership. She was invited to more speaking engagements, both political and community-based, and her profile as a bold, unapologetic leader grew exponentially. In the weeks that followed, the exchange remained a reference point in political commentary. Analysts continued dissecting her rhetorical style, noting how she avoided emotional escalation while still delivering a devastating rebuttal. For many, it was a reminder that in the age of viral media, one perfectly timed response can shift public perception overnight.